Ancient Egypt, known for its pyramids and powerful pharaohs, was a civilization that thrived for thousands of years. Its remarkable achievements and vibrant culture continue to fascinate us. But beyond the iconic monuments and historical treasures, there's a darker side to this civilization that often remains hidden. This video aims to shed light on the disturbing practices that existed behind the magnificent facade of ancient Egypt. From incestuous marriages to the prevalence of slave labor, these shocking secrets paint a completely dark portrait of ancient Egypt. As we take a walk through each of these horrifying secrets, we will uncover a side of ancient Egypt that reveals a complex and sometimes troubling human story. One disturbing secret of ancient Egypt is the prevalent practice of incestuous marriages within the royal family. The notion of brothers marrying sisters, or even parents marrying their own children, was not only accepted but encouraged among the Egyptian royalty, particularly during the Ptolemaic dynasty, 305 to 30 BC. It was believed that this practice kept the bloodline pure and maintained the divine status of the pharaohs. The justification for these incestuous marriages stemmed from ancient Egyptian mythology. The gods Osiris and Isis, brother and sister, were not only married but also bore a child, Horus. By mirroring these divine relationships, the royal families believed they were preserving their own godlike status and ensuring their lineage remained untainted. However, the troubling implications and consequences of this practice were significant. The repeated intermarrying within the same bloodline led to a high risk of genetic disorders and physical deformities. Evidence of this can be found in the case of Tutankhamun, the boy king who ruled Egypt around 1332 to 1323 BC. Studies of his mummified remains suggest he had a club foot, a cleft palate, and other physical abnormalities, possibly due to inbreeding. This distressing facet of ancient Egypt exposes a concerning disregard for the health and well-being of individuals, in favor of maintaining power and perceived divine status. The practice of servant sacrifice stands as another unsettling secret tucked within the annals of ancient Egypt. During the early days of the Old Kingdom period, circa 2686 to 2181 BC, it was believed that high-ranking officials and pharaohs were accompanied in death by their servants, who were killed and buried with them. This was to ensure they would have all the help they needed in the afterlife. Servants, particularly those closest to the master, were seen as extensions of their household, and their lives were sometimes abruptly ended upon their master's death. In these rituals, the servants would be entombed alongside their deceased master, often in subsidiary graves surrounding the main burial site. Despite its perceived religious significance, the disturbing nature of this practice is undeniable. It demonstrates a stark devaluation of human life, particularly those in servitude. Killing a person, irrespective of their social status, to serve the needs of their deceased master in the afterlife displays a chilling disregard for individual rights and personal freedom. The thought of a life abruptly ended based on another's death underlines the stark inequalities and extreme practices that existed in ancient Egypt. This unsettling practice was thankfully not widespread or long-lived, and appears to have diminished as the Old Kingdom progressed. Examining further into the unsettling secrets of ancient Egypt brings us to the complex and eerie procedure of mummification. Designed as a way to preserve the body for the afterlife, this process was meticulous and extensive. Starting around 2600 BC, the embalmers would begin by removing the brain through the nostrils using specialized hooks. Following this, they would make a cut on the left side of the body to remove internal organs, the liver, lungs, stomach, and intestines, leaving only the heart in place. These organs were then preserved separately in canopic jars. Next, they would dehydrate the body with natron, a natural salt, for about 40 days before stuffing it with linen or sand to restore its shape. The body was then wrapped in layers of linen, with amulets placed in between for protection in the afterlife. Finally, a portrait mask was often placed over the head of the deceased before the mummy was placed in a decorated coffin. The mummification process in ancient Egypt, while disturbing to some, was deeply rooted in religious beliefs and practices. It demonstrated the extraordinary skill and dedication of the embalmers, who viewed their work as a sacred duty. The meticulous preservation of the body was crucial for the deceased's journey in the afterlife, as they believed the soul, or ka, needed a physical home to return to. This intricate ritual was a testament to the ancient Egyptians' strong belief in life after death and their commitment to ensuring spiritual continuity. However, despite the religious significance, the nature of the mummification process can be unsettling to many. The idea of a body undergoing such invasive procedures post-mortem, involving the removal of organs and deliberate desiccation, can stir a sense of unease. Moving forward in our exploration of ancient Egypt's disturbing secrets, we encounter the concept of trial by ordeal. This was a judicial practice used to determine the guilt or innocence of an accused person based on the belief that divine intervention would reveal the truth. A trial by ordeal typically involved a physical test that the accused had to undergo, with a successful outcome indicating innocence. In ancient Egypt, ordeals could include crossing a fire, holding a hot iron, or even being thrown into the Nile. The underlying idea was that the gods would protect the innocent and punish the guilty. These trials were often utilized in cases where evidence was insufficient or contradictory, or when the crime was deemed particularly heinous. It was believed that these ordeals would force the divine powers to make a definitive judgment, thereby resolving the matter. However, the disturbing aspects of this practice are glaringly obvious. The reliance on divine judgment in such a potentially harmful and life-threatening manner reflects a gross disregard for human rights and personal safety. Moreover, it suggests a justice system that was more focused on punishment rather than genuine justice. Consequently, this trial method led to numerous unjust outcomes and undeserving punishments. Unveiling another unsettling facet of ancient Egypt, we turn our attention to the use of slaves. Slavery was an integral part of society, playing a critical role in the economy and functioning of the civilization. The slaves were often captives from conquered lands, or those who were deeply in debt, and their roles varied from working in the homes of the affluent to toiling in the fields, or constructing monumental structures like the pyramids. Historically, the New Kingdom period, circa 1550 to 1070 BC, saw an increase in slavery due to Egypt's expansionist policies. Prisoners of war from Nubia, Canaan, and Syria were commonly enslaved, providing a steady influx of labor. Slaves were also used in state projects, temples, and private estates, living under conditions that were often harsh and brutal. The living conditions of slaves in ancient Egypt were particularly harsh. Many were housed in cramped, rudimentary accommodations with limited access to basic amenities. They were often made to work long hours under the scorching sun with inadequate food and water supplies. Many faced physical abuse and harsh punishments for perceived insubordination or simply failing to meet their daily work quotas. In the case of state projects, like pyramid construction, slaves were subjected to dangerous conditions, leading to injury or death. The lack of medical attention only compounded these issues, making their lives harsh and filled with hardship. The implications of this practice were undeniably disturbing. It highlights a society built on inequality and the exploitation of human beings. The grueling physical labor, combined with limited rights and a life at the behest of their masters, depicts a bleak picture of the slave's life in ancient Egypt. The ritualistic slaughter of animals in ancient Egypt further underscores the disturbing practices, often veiled by the civilization's grandeur. Animals played a significant role in Egyptian religious rituals, and many were sacrificed as offerings to the gods. These rituals were conducted with strict procedures and an emphasis on respect towards the deities. Cattle, sheep, and geese were commonly sacrificed in temples, as these animals were considered to possess a spiritual significance. For instance, Apis, the bull deity, was considered sacred, and the ritualistic slaughter of bulls was a common practice. This was believed to be a way to maintain a divine connection and ensure prosperity and protection. However, the distressing aspect of these rituals is the sheer scale of animal death involved. This is most evident in the catacombs of Saqqara, where millions of mummified animals, particularly ibises and baboons, were discovered, revealing the magnitude of these offerings. Even though these practices held spiritual significance in ancient Egypt, the concept of mass animal sacrifices is deeply troubling. In unearthing these secrets of ancient Egypt, we confront a civilization cloaked in glory and mystery, yet scarred by disturbing practices. As we come face to face with these harsh realities, we're prompted to question how much more of ancient Egypt's dark side remains hidden beneath the sands of time.